What's going on, you guys? Welcome back. Hope you guys enjoyed the last video of the turbo installation. Today we are going to do possibly one or the other thing. So the first choice to do today is to remove the oil pan, drain the oil, all that, clean it up, weld the dash 10 bung on it, run the feed line and the return line for the turbo. So pretty much the cooling lines and feed lines for the turbo. Or am I in the mood to do an up pipe and up tube for the wastegate? So the thing is, the up pipes, I'm not sure if I'm like in the mood, you know, for cutting metal and having a lot of like spark. You know, spark generates heat in this hot day to you know, cut and weld up pipes. Or do I want to do the return line? But the only thing that's stopping me from doing the return line is, one, I don't have an oil pan gasket just yet, but I can go buy that. Two, I don't have the gasket for the return line for the flange that I've shown you guys in the last video. Now another choice would be fabbing up the charge piping for the cold side and the hot side, and I think the one that's going to be the complicated one is from the compressor housing to the intercooler. That's going to take some time to really figure out the fitment. And then on top of that, I don't even have a blow-off valve. So yeah, plenty of things to do. Just got to pick and choose which one I want to do today and talk about it and cover it for you guys. But first, I'm going to go to Subway right there across the street, grab me something to eat. And oh, and I got to feed my cat too. I've been calling him for like 5 minutes and he has not shown up. So and look what he did yesterday too. Freaking ass hat. Got some cookies from Subway, you know, just for munching purposes when we are working on the car. And I think today I'm just gonna do the return line and the oil feed line. Pretty simple stuff here. The oil pan gasket, my buddy Robert has one for me. He's always had one for me. I just never had time to go pick it up. So he said I can swing by tonight, snag it, or he can bring it to work tomorrow, which he's around the area. And we can install the oil pan back up once we weld the dash 10 on it. Alright guys, so I got everything laid out right here, and there are two parts to oiling the turbo system. One is the feed line, two is the return line. So it's very important to figure out what turbo you have and what restrictor it needs. Typically a dash 3 is already a restrictor, so the GT series, the GT35R, uses a dash 3, or I believe like a .060 or a .065. I'm not 100% sure, but I'll put it right there. So I'm going to be using a dash 3 line on mine, since this is what I bought and was recommended to me from Brian. And I have pretty much all the stuff he sent me for the GT35R. My feed line is going to consist of, you know, running oil from the back of the block on the oil pressure sending unit. And I'm going to be using this block right here, which then is going to use a fitting that goes on one end like that, and then the oil pressure sensor is going to be up top right here, and then this is going to be towards the block. That is going to be my feed for the oil to my turbo, right? And I'll show you more of that when I get under the car. So another way to get oil sent to the turbo is running an oil sandwich adapter like this one here. This one came off of that motor, and I'm not going to be robbing it because it's for that motor. So this is another way to get oil pressure, oil feed to your turbo. But in my case, because I already have these all brand new just lying around, I'm going to be using that and keep costs low, because that is a lot more expensive than this guy. The return line is fairly simple, typically a dash 10, and you can get away with using like a barb style like this right here, but this could be prone to leaking for those who are using hoses that, you know, aren't rated for high pressure or whatever. It can expand and then leak through unless you put like a worm clamp on it. I'm using a dash 10 because I've always used a dash 10, plus I have plenty of them lying around. So the oil return system needs to be gravity fed back into the pan. Now you don't want any like roller coaster action. You don't want to kink in any direction of the line to the pan, and you don't want your return line to be horizontal to the pan. In that case, it would apply to like a forward facing manifold or a bottom mount that has a giant turbo where the return line is almost leveled up with the oil pan. That is a no-go. And then most of the time people will recommend you to use like a what's that pump? So for me, since my turbo's already in place and it's pretty high up, it looks like I'm gonna get away with a straight down to the pan to another straight fitting that goes to the oil pan itself, or I can use a 45 degree like that and then a straight into the pan. Now for the pan portion, I'm going to be using -10 bungs. Determine if you have aluminum or steel and then have that welded on. But if you want to use like a piggyback with a nut on the other end of the pan, or like a fitting that you just thread into the pan, you could do that as well. Hunter Tune and I believe Booster Boys has done it that way on their oil pans on some of their cars where they have 100% success run with it. I'm just going to do -10 just because this is what I have and this is what I'm going to use. I got the oil pan cleaned up, and for the most part on the area where it's going to be welded has been cleaned up of most of the oil, and I've already drilled my hole here. Bung fits in there perfectly. I grinded down the front side and the back side in case of like impurity coming through or whatever. Tip: make sure when you put your bung on, you put it as high as possible and out of the way of the 10mm. So I chose this corner so that way it kind of gives me more slack from the turbo to the pan instead of right here, because that will be a really tight bend to get from the turbo return to the bung here. So I moved it over here high as I can in between these two 10mm bolts, so that way we can you know, access them with the tool and torque them in spec. Got the pan bolted up with one nut because I don't have the gasket, obviously. Right here is a 45, and it's not pointed down. It looks like it's pointed down, but it's not. This is probably the lowest angle I can have it before it becomes pointing downward. So right here we got the -10 straight coming off the turbo, and what I'm doing is pretty much just kind of eyeballing how much got to cut on this line before we you know, fix it into place on this 45. So that looks about where I am going to need it to be in length, and then I'm going to put a blue tape around it. I can't do it with one hand, right? And then we're going to pull it back off, cut it, and then we'll attach it here to the 45 and then bolt it up in place from the turbo to the pan. All right, so that right there is my return line, just loosely bolted up, but you can see there's no crazy up bend or anything, and hopefully that should flow efficiently. And now let's move on to the feed line. What in the world? We are under the car looking up towards the oil filter, and I believe that is the oil pressure sensor right there. Now this is a little bit different than the single cam in the B series, because it's not like a plug that goes on here. Usually this one actually has a screw on it, and it's a lot lower, closer to the axle than it is on the B series and the D series way up top on this side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this guy right here, and then I am going to install this sucker in place of that, and I'm going to have to like figure out a weird angle to ensure that I can put this guy back on here and then the feed line on here without it touching the oil filter and the axle. I think that's it. Alright, so this is probably the first time I've ever seen this adapter to the H22 block, or the adapter in general. So this goes on the block, and then the oil pressure sensor goes on top of that. And now we are going to screw this guy in here like that. And I also marked right here, which is pointed straight to the ground, so I know that once I put this guy on and tighten it up, I know to make sure that this is going to clear the oil filter, which is on top of this line, so on the other side. So this is pointed at the bottom towards me, and then once I screw this guy on, I want to make sure that this is pointing either this way or this way from the line, so we know that it would clear the oil filter. So I'm gonna put this all together, show you how it looks, and then we'll put it back into the car and we'll run our feed line after that. So I had to shave this thing down right here so I could turn this adapter to aim in the direction that I needed to be. So I couldn't get this guy you know, like on the straight portion right here, because they are two different thread pitch. I believe 3/8 or 1/8 and 1/4 the difference, but nonetheless this will work just fine. I actually flipped my feed line around. I had the 45 in the back and the straight in the front, but now I have the 45 in the front because of this point, this direction. And if I had the 45 in the back, it would be a real tight stretch fit to bring the 45 around to come out to this end. B series, D series guys, you don't have to worry about that, because you guys don't have this piece like I do. And now I'm gonna reinstall this guy in the back, run the feed line front and rear fully tightened down, and we'll show you how that looks, and then we'll be done with the feed and return for today. ML, hey, no more. Okay, no more going up there, bro. You've already destroyed 2 in the last 4 years. Okay, mama caught your ass sleeping on that post right there, and then you guys can see the indentation. He was sleeping in that corner up there. Apparently this does not work anymore, but meow, stop going up there. Okay, all right guys, so this is pretty much it for this video. Let me show you guys, you know, again really quickly. Got my feed line ran down there to the oil pressure sensor port with a T on it, and it is nicely tucked away between the valve cover, cam gear cover thing, and the frame rail right there on the back side, 90 into the turbo. That is nicely secured. Give you guys another look here at the return line. No crazy roller coaster looking loop to loop, straight from the turbo down into the pan. The pan is still loosely bolted on it. I told my buddy, you know, just bring the gasket to work, which is right here across the street from me, and I'll snag it tomorrow. We'll install that you know, off camera. I'm sure you guys know how to do an oil pan gasket. And then yeah, we have oil feed line and return line for our CRX here, guys. Check it out. We are nearing now. Tomorrow we'll probably cover like maybe charge pipe, or the up pipe and the wastegate up pipe as well. Who knows? We'll figure it out when we get to it. And I hope you guys are loving the progress, because I sure am. I hope you guys are looking forward to more. The camera lens is full of oil. But I hope you guys can see me. This thing is going a lot quicker than I intended it for, as far as segments go, but progress is better than no progress, guys. Remember that. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.